Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Troy.
And I'm Linda. And Desi, well, he's resting up in the trailer until his next scene.
For those of you that follow our channel, you know that Linda and I love a good mod.
But sometimes they don't turn out as well as we planned, or sometimes they even turn out better. So we always like to do a 1-year follow-up video to let you know how they're holding up. And that is today's video.
So which mods are we going to cover in today's video?
Hey, well, first we're going to have this countertop, but we're going to save it till the end because it was a little controversial. We also built this storage cubby, so we'll see how that's holding up.
We built a cool little side table at the end of the couch in the cup holder.
And speaking of tables, we also did that big undertaking where we put the new table into the floor.
And then we built a shelf between the front of the camper all the way to the entertainment center.
And we also replaced the standard doorknob with a flush mount doorknob.
We took out the standard LED fixtures in the ceiling and installed dimmable ones.
So let's get started. Well, we're going to start off this video with one of our most challenging mods, and that was this table. The challenging part was deciding where exactly to drill that hole because we only got one shot at it. Luckily, all went fine, and everything is holding up just like it did when we did this project about 18 months ago. But there is something that we would do differently. It's this tabletop. So in retrospect, we kind of underestimated how difficult it was going to be to store it behind the couch. It still takes, we store a lot of stuff behind here, so we have to constantly move stuff if we want to pull it out. Plus it has these sharp edges on the corners. So we have to wrap it in a blanket. So we're thinking we're going to redesign this tabletop to be more of a rounded, maybe a little bit lighter, and maybe store it somewhere different. So check next year's update video because when we come up with a solution, we'll post it in there. Now there is an update on the 2024 models. We recently toured a 20 FPS and they now have a lagoon table on these couches. But in looking at it, it appears that the bar kind of goes back under the sofa and we're assuming is screwed or bolted down into the plywood. So we don't think it's going to be very easy to kind of disassemble that if you ever want to use the storage under the couch like we do. So we put that on hinges. We've shown that in previous videos and we really do use that storage a lot. So I'm kind of curious, for those that have the 2024 with this couch and that has that new lagoon table, can you still access the place under the couch without having to break everything apart? Leave it down below in the comments.
Now here's a mod Linda really likes. It took me a little bit more work than I thought. I had to make some modifications to the door and it took me a little bit longer fiddling to get this lock set to actually fit this type of door. But it solved the problem because when you come through the side door in our camper to enter the camper, this doorknob's always sticking right in the traffic lane. This is compact, it works well. It's been in over a year, works just as well today as it did the day we installed it. In fact, she's so proud of the darn thing, every time we look at a camper, inevitably she'll comment on whether the bathroom door gets in the way of traffic or swings into something like an appliance. Problem solved. This mod right here is one of my personal favorites. It's by far the simplest mod that Linda and I have done on this camper. I use it every day. We've had no problems with it. I don't foresee having any problems with it. That's the beauty of it. It's that simple.
Now next up, we're going to talk about this storage cubby. Now I misspoke when I talked about the table being our most challenging. This is definitely our most challenging. The table was the most worrisome. But as challenging as this mod was, it is one of our most rewarding mods. It is amazing how much stuff you can get in this small cabinet. We store our coats, our hats, shoes, our waters, dog leashes. We use this space multiple times a day, which is why we're glad we didn't put the door on it. This whole area is kind of a choke point, so if we'd had a door on here, it just would have been that much more difficult because we're constantly in here. Now, we have traveled about 3,000 miles now with this mod in place and nothing has shifted, so we are very happy with the construction part of it. But we might change kind of some of the storage options in here down the road. So we're trying to kind of get an idea of what we really like to keep in this cabinet and how we can best design it. So we might add some additional baskets or hooks or things like that. So if we change up anything, we'll let you know in a future video, but this is one of our best mods we have done.
Now we have a mod that I really wish we'd have done sooner. It's very simple in design, it stores easily during travel, and it's working out perfectly for Linda and I. This shelf takes a lot of things that we normally had on the countertop or on the floor and gets them up out of the way, out of mind. It sets up in about a minute and it breaks down just as quickly. One of the concerns Linda and I had was the magnets that we used that are kind of in place to help hold this guy in position would shift when we traveled. As it turns out, when we pull this board down, set the board on the mattress, the magnets on this plate, they don't shift at all. They haven't budged one iota, and all the time we've been using this one app. This is definitely one of our favorites. There's really not much more we could say about this mod other than it does exactly what it's supposed to do. We took out the original stock lights, put in these dimmable ones about over a year ago, and they haven't given us any trouble, and they just work great. This is a simple mod anybody can do, a few moments apiece, and you can do the whole camper in less than an hour. This is something that Linda and I wanted to do on this camper from almost the day we purchased it. It's something that we thought about doing in our previous camper that was a Class C. We didn't want the cooktop or the oven in that unit either. We just never got around to it before we decided to shift over to a travel trailer.
But I will say this is one of our most controversial mods. We actually got a few thumbs down. I guess people did not agree with our choices, and that's okay. Because great thing about camping is, you know, there's a way for everybody to do it. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this one. How is the countertop holding up? How's the cabinet holding up? And, you know, what do we do without a stovetop in the camper? And would we do anything different? So from a structural standpoint, how have our changes held up, Troy?
They've held up very well. When I took the old countertop off, I had the opportunity to reach into this cabinet. I stiffened it up in several places, reinforced it where I could. It was kind of shaky. Now it's incredibly rigid and it's holding this countertop up very well.
And speaking of the countertop, it's also holding up really well. I do oil it after every trip. Yeah, we cook on this. We, you know, prep meals on this. We use the sink, and there's been, you know, no issues with the countertop. If it gets a scratch, I just take a really light sanding block and just kind of sand it and then re-oil it, and, you know, gives it a little character, but even that is very minimal. Okay, next up, Troy, would we have done anything differently when we had this thing all apart?
Yeah, I think there's only a couple things I would have done differently. When I had the top off and the opportunity to reach into this cabinet really easily, I probably would have reinforced the end of the cabinet close to the door. Every time that I mount something on the end of this cabinet, I have to put in small blocks of wood to reinforce the fastener so it stays there. I would have put a full sheet of something probably in to give me a lot more versatility and make it a lot easier on me moving forward. And we have this little drawer that's just in front of the sink that pulls down. I probably would have fabricated some other little cubby and built that in so that when I opened up that door, I had that much more storage, at least as far as I could take it back to the front edge of that sink.
Yeah, so something to think about if you go to do this modification yourself. Now, the question is though, do we miss the stovetop, and how easy is it to cook without one?
Now guys, to be perfectly honest, I've never missed a meal in my life. And not having that cooktop in this camper hasn't hindered me one bit. Linda puts on a serious feed when we travel and we have a good time cooking. It's much easier now.
Yeah, without that stovetop, I have this whole area now for prep space, plus that electrical outlet. I love it. We have a routine in the mornings. Troy brings me coffee and I make him breakfast, and our go-to is really those little Dash Minis.
Yeah.
You know, they sit right up on the countertop. I can make breakfast super easy.
Fast.
Yeah, and as far as, you know, if we're cooking in the evenings, we've been using the Blackstone, the Omnia oven that I recently bought. We put it on the Coleman burner, and that kind of takes the place of an oven.
Sure.
And that Coleman burner has worked out really well. And when we travel, you know, I just kind of prep my meals ahead of time and then just figure out what else I'm going to bring. You know, we also have an air fryer. We have a small Instant Pot. I try not to bring everything.
I would say we have it covered, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And we, you know, and on the days, I mean, there's been actually quite a bit of rainy days on this trip.
Yeah.
And that's where that convection microwave comes into play. That thing is great now that I've learned how to use it.
Yeah, so we've definitely learned to adapt. We can always do takeout. We can always make sandwiches. In the year that cooktop has been out of this camper, I haven't missed it, not once.
So this mod is definitely going down as a win.
So that's it. These are all the major mods that we've done in the past year.
Now, if you're curious about prior year's mods, you can check out last year's video. There's really been no change. We are still using those to this day.
Yeah. And we've also got a couple mods coming up in the upcoming year that we're pretty excited to show you.
Right. We are going to be tackling some things in this bathroom to make it a little bit more storage user friendly. And this area over by the TV, our TV is going, so we decided to go ahead and make some changes to this cabinet, maybe get a new TV, maybe not. We'll have to see where it all ends up. And if you'd like to do that, please remember to
like and subscribe.
And Desi, he always likes it when you hit that notification bell.